very old-fashioned term. It was actually coined because the pole, being a very, very sensitive part of the horse, is incredibly innervated.
Where's the pole?
Oh, okay. So for those who don't know where the pole is actually between the ears at the top of the skull, that connective point. It's the occipital point where the skull is basically attached to the neck of the horse. So that area is very, very sensitive, and which is why when you put a bridle on, you want to make sure that there's no bunching of hair underneath the bridle. Same as, when you're tying your horse up, you don't really want your horse pulling back because of the damage that it can cause. Pole evil was the term used to describe horses that had a super reactive feeling when they were putting, twitching their head when they were putting bridles on, etc., back in the old days. So without knowing a little bit more about what was causing it, that's kind of how the term was coined. From our perspective, there's two causes for pole evil. One is trauma, so a blunt trauma. So either pulling back severely with a halter, maybe rolling on a rock, hitting their head accidentally on a beam above their head, could all be considered trauma. The other thing that could happen is maybe there's an infection in that area. Any sort of trauma to the pole can often end up in a condition known as bursitis, and can often become like a cysty, abscessy looking thing that needs to be drained. So depending on if this horse sounds like that there is actually a formation of something under the skin. Now, that being an abscess of some sort, it probably needs to be drained. So if there's no surgical intervention required, what I would do is use blood cleansers to help break down the cyst wall. Red clover is our primary herb to help break down cyst walls, plus equisetum. And once we're using herbs like garlic and burdock, nettle, all of those herbs, you might even want to use some dandelion to make sure that the liver is eliminating really well as your traditional garlic and echinaceas. Those sorts of formulations is where I would start, and just getting the body to expel that foreign matter. In terms of the damage to the nerves, that's going to require some nerve regeneration. So we would use herbs like St. John's wort, mugwort possibly, depending on what else is going on there with this horse. You might look at his personality and say, is he a gut reacting horse or is he a really tense horse? So we might want to use valerian or chamomile depending on what type of personality that he has. But the primary nerve regeneration herbs are your mugwort and your St. John's wort, which are unsurpassed in terms of getting that nerve damage corrected. And once there is a healing of that abscess taking place, then you would use a topical oil, probably just topical St. John's wort on that area until the whole area was desensitized and feeling a little bit more normal. Amongst all of this, you could use anti-inflammatory herbs as well to reduce pain and inflammation. So that gives you an idea of the sorts of combinations of herbs you can use. From our pharmacy, the type of formulas I'd be using with this case would be the Infecticlear, the nerve regeneration formula, and the Alleviate would probably, depending on how painful that condition was. And you may not necessarily have to use them all together. You might just want to use your Infecticlear and Alleviate first, and then once you've got that abscess out of the way, then you would start using your nerve regeneration. Okay?